1. Going to bed early. 2. Not leaving my house. 3. Not going to a party. My childhood punishments have become my adult goals. Late comedy greats Robin Williams and Rodney Dangerfield in the late 1970s. Age test. Do you know what this is? That's a fancy store-bought one there. The real ones, you buy a piece of material and put it on a coat hanger and make your own, or use an old t-shirt to make it. And your homemade ones would last forever. I still use one. Millennials living through Y2K, 9/11, a plague, 2 economic recessions, and a possible World War III before they hit 40. It'll be a few days before this video goes up, but it looks like everything's about to hit the fan with Turkey, Syria, Iran, State of Israel, and a whole bunch of others. This show definitely wasn't PC. If they tried to air this on TV today, they'd throw every name in the book at it. Do you guys know of any channel on TV where they still re-air the reruns? The only ones I know of is to buy it on DVD. 1980s movies. How many have you seen? You guys can pause the video there and read through the list. But I'd say most of you know just about every movie on here. Another childhood star lost to drugs. I'm this old. Yes. Yes, I am. What is something every 90s kid should remember? Or, what is something every 80s kid should remember? Never forget what they took from us. This is more like late millennial, but there's a whole lot of people that would really like to see this come back. At least you'd still be able to get something to eat for a couple of bucks. McDonald's these days thinks they're like a 4-star restaurant or something. Based on these choices, which era had the best film? Out of these choices here, I think Rocky, The Breakfast Club, and Top Gun are a given. But The Mask and The Matrix were also pretty good too. Them. You need to listen to your body more. Body. You're old and you want pizza. 32 years ago, the Super Nintendo was released. Yeah. And it's been 38 years since the original Nintendo was released. And it's been 46 years since the Atari was released. The longer I make this video, the older I feel. Zach Berry, your daddy is calling from work with a question about his computer. Wasn't this true for all of us? Now, how many of you guys had things like this happen? They always had to teach the older generation about how to use the computer. And we always ended up being the ones that had to fix them, program them, and everything else. How many of you guys had to fix the teacher's computer? I had to do that a few times when I was in school. Now these days we all have to teach the younger generation how to use a printer. If you can find a printer that'll actually work these days. Of course, they're a whole lot better than the old dot matrix printers with the endless paper that came out of the box and fed through the printer with the holes on it that you had to tear all that stuff off. Man, those things were so aggravating. Speed limit, 35. Your speed, 88. High score. Anyone else notice the file trails in the corner? Great Scott, Marty. We're back from the future. Who remembers what's happening? 76 through 79. Last thing I remember is saying, hold my beer. That actually looks like a pretty nice truck up in that tree. Knowing the guys back then, they probably took it apart, carried it up the tree, and reassembled it. Old school selfie. That's actually pretty funny because a lot of the newer generations, they probably think the joke is that it had a cord. When you are the meme lord and you see people posting better memes than you. Hey now, I'm offended by that. Anyway, who remembers this guy? And besides his movies, does anybody remember some of the TV commercials that he made? Check out this old photo from the 1950s. Did you see it yet? Chicks dig scars. Pain is temporary. Glory is forever. Remember me? Land of the Lost. And this is the original, not the 2000s remake that was a flop. In either case, it's actually a really bad title when you think about it. Game program Pac-Man, used with joystick controllers. Atari. If you see a closed down Church's Chicken, you are somewhere you don't need to be. Not sure why this slide is in here, but it is probably true. My ability to remember song lyrics from the 80s far exceeds my ability to remember why I walked into the kitchen. Unfortunately, I can attest that this is very, very accurate for me. This is for a different reason. I have a hard time remembering anything these days. If you know what this is, you are officially old. Yeah, Gen X was such bigots we had gendered syrup bottles. You know, somewhere, somebody's gonna post that. You don't think they'll believe that? Hey, they believed you had to change the egg yolk in your mouse. Faxes, they used to be everywhere. Houses, office, etc. Now, it's a rare sight. This one here's for the mid-millennials. But it did get to where they were literally everywhere. They were almost like pagers. If you had one, you must be important. Nowadays, I can't remember the last time I actually saw one. Hey, here's something I come across the other day I thought you guys would find interesting. A 20 megapixel sensor in a film canister reinvigorates vintage analog cameras. The company, I'm Back Film, is a fascinating product that makes the dream of digital film a reality. I'm Back is the first digital film roll that relies upon a 20 megapixel Sony Micro Four Thirds image sensor tucked away inside a film roll canister. Basically, you can take your old 35mm film cameras and put this in there and it turns it into a digital camera. I just thought this would be kind of cool for some of us that still have our old 35mm cameras from back in the day. And speaking of cameras, waiting for film to get developed and then going through the photos. I was just talking to one of you guys in the comments section the other day about this. We were talking about how you put your film in one of these envelopes and send it off in the mail. A week or two later, you get your photos back just to find out how they're all crap. And that's usually what happened. You might get one or two good photos out of a whole roll of film. You didn't get no preview screen like today's cameras. And you had no idea what the actual photo looked like until you finally got it developed. Floppy disks. I saw someone saying not long ago where they had one of these. There was a younger person saw it and said, "Oh, you 3D printed the save icon." They had no idea why the save icon looks like a floppy disk. But all of us here, we know that this is the last version of the floppy disk. The real floppy disks were these. You had the 8-inch, the 5 1/4, and then finally, the last one was the 3 1/2. I remember the 8-inch because that's the disc that Oregon Trail was on. But the reason that they call them floppy disks is because the 8-inch and the 5 1/4-inch were literally flexible, aka a floppy disk. The last version that they made, which is a 3 1/2-inch, it's still a floppy disk, but they put it in a hard protective case, which did make it a lot less likely to get damaged. And you also had the write protect feature, so you wouldn't accidentally overwrite your files. Kids exploring ancient ruins. When's the last time anybody's actually seen a real working payphone? In the last few years, the only thing I've ever seen is just where the phone used to be, is just an empty box. I think there was one place I saw an actual phone still there, but it didn't work. This is how our parents used to text back in the day. This house better be spotless before I get home from work. If it's not, everybody's getting a whooping. Yes, indeed. And that should have never changed. The official sports drink when I was a kid. I saw somebody that was asking a question about this, asking if this was real, that kids is drunk from the hose, and why. They were like, didn't you have tap water inside the house or what? Somebody had to explain to him, you didn't go back in the house during the day. Your parents kicked you out in the morning, and you were outside playing all day long. You didn't have fancy bottled water back then, and you didn't have all these sports drinks. So when you got thirsty, you just grabbed a water hose and drunk your fill. Kids these days will never know how lit this place would be on a Friday night. And usually packed too, because everyone was spending their time going through the shelves trying to find something to watch, because the brand new release movie that you came there to get was usually already empty. When you're 3, but you just sold your first house. 2005. Spends $15 on ringtones. 2023. Phone's been on silent for 6 years. If you remember this, don't forget to take an ibuprofen for your back today. Remember this. Heck, this looks like, I think this is Windows 98. How about Windows 95? Or better yet, Windows 3.1, which took about 30 floppy disks to be able to install it from. And before that, we used DOS, aka Direct Operating System. Don't claim to be a hockey fan if you don't know who this legendary player is. Not sure how many will get this meme. Today's kids will never know how to play Minesweeper, because neither did we. And that's the truth too. This is just a game based on luck. This is when the lying first started. The greatest 45 seconds of flavor that you will ever experience. This definitely wouldn't be PC these days either. Movie idea. A bully from the 80s to 90s time travels to the present to a school with diversity and inclusion. That'd be a movie I'd like to see. Netflix used to come in the mail. Sure, Grandma, let's get you to bed. When you're born at age 48. That's a very fitting description. Nothing made you happier than seeing this when walking into a classroom as a kid. Historians now believe that at one time approximately 93.1% of Americans had this alarm clock on their nightstand. I think it was more than that. Well, that can't be good. It'd be funny if they were actually just selling the empty box. Whole series started all from one movie in the late 80s. My grandma talking about there's some pepper in the cabinet. Sell by August 29th, 99. Ain't nothing wrong with that. As long as it's kept dry, it's still good. Today's kids will never know the strength you needed to get the car window down. 90s kids moving their TVs from one room to another. Yeah, but the 70s and 80s kids would have to have two guys like that to pick up the big wooden box panel TVs, blocking someone in the 90s. By the age of 35, you should have a huge box of random cables. But you can't throw them out because you're pretty sure you still might need a couple one day. This is true. I just put several boxes up in the loft the other day of some really old cables. But as soon as I throw them away, I'll end up needing some of them. If you guys enjoyed the video, please hit subscribe. I got more videos in the works, but if you haven't seen some of the other series that's on the channel, you might check them out. There's over 70 videos on the channel now, and I think there's a little something for everyone. If you guys have memes, links, news articles, photos, or other things you'd like to share, just send them to the email address that's down in the video description. I'd like to thank you all for watching. Stay safe and have a great day.